Hello, thank you for joining us for Building Strong Communities. I'm Erica Manny, the Chief Executive Officer for the American Red Cross Central Appalachia region. This show will aim to provide you with vital information to keep you and your loved ones safe and help to build a strong and resilient community. The mission of the American Red Cross is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. The Red Cross aspires to turn compassion into action so that all people affected by disaster across the country and around the world receive care, shelter, and hope. Our communities are ready and prepared for disasters. Everyone has access to safe, life-saving blood and blood products. All members of our armed services and their families find support and comfort whenever needed. And in an emergency, there are always trained individuals nearby, ready to use their Red Cross skills to save lives. Through this show, we'll provide you with critical, life-saving information for you, your family, and our community. Our guest today is C.W. Sigmund, Director, Kanawha County Homeland Security and Emergency Management. C.W. is a great partner to the American Red Cross and works continually to ensure our community is prepared for emergencies. He is among the first to respond when disaster strikes and knows how critical it is to help our communities recover following a disaster. Disaster indeed struck our local communities very recently. A historic, severe weather outbreak occurred on Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, across the National Weather Service Charleston, West Virginia County warning area, with 17 confirmed tornadoes and over 100 locations that experienced non-tornadic wind damage. The 17 confirmed tornadoes are the most tornadoes for any calendar day and event on record for the National Weather Service Charleston County warning area, which includes 49 counties in Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia. The previous record was 6 tornadoes on April 4th, 1974. To further put this number into perspective, the previous record number of tornadoes for an entire calendar year over our warning area was 11, set in 1980, and it took 7 days of tornadoes to reach that number. In the state of West Virginia, along the 10 tornadoes that have been confirmed on April 2nd, 2024, it sets a state record for the most tornadoes observed on any calendar day. Of those record 10 tornadoes on April 2nd, 5 occurred in Kanawha County. Then on Thursday, April 11th, according to the National Weather Service in Charleston, a record amount of rain, 3.32 inches, fell in Charleston, breaking the old record of 1.88 inches that fell in 1965. In today's episode, we discuss with CW a variety of topics, including the recent severe weather that impacted many areas of West Virginia, what you can do to be prepared if an emergency strikes, and how to prepare your home for the most common disaster, home fires. Thank you so much for joining us, CW, and we are thrilled to have you with us to help our viewers learn what to do before, during, and after disaster strikes.
And my pleasure to be here.
Well, we know that the weather has been wild, and we've experienced that over the last couple of weeks, and it's been unlike anything we've seen before. And so as the Kanawha County Emergency Manager, what have you seen in our communities?
Well, first of all, I've been doing this a long time in one form or another for over 50 years. It's the most active weather I've seen ever. Having that many tornadoes and then follow up that much rain is just unprecedented. And it really shows that, in some ways, it shows that we are prepared. And I look at the wind event and how our citizens reacted and how the warnings went out and how everybody worked together. So I see that we're making good progress. It was a terrible event, but our counties handled it pretty well.
You just mentioned it. It's a team of people that come together to respond and prepare for emergencies. How does the city, county, state government, and even non-government organization partners, how do we all work together to respond to things like this and prepare as well?
Constant communication is the key. And I go from the National Weather Service giving us heads up to the broadcast media putting out the weather information days in advance and what they said during the event, to the 911 center for getting the sirens activated very quickly, to the National Weather Service, back to them for the emergency alert system, the wireless emergency alert, the Red Cross during a response, all the fire departments, police departments, EMS. And there's a lot of people I'm going to miss, but everybody worked together and communicated together very well, and it was a pretty effective response.
It is amazing to see all the communication that is going on, and we share a lot of information about the areas that are hit by disaster and severe weather. As emergency manager, how do you get your information?
Well, for one, the Red Cross. Your people in the field, we talk multiple times a day. I mean, a lot of times a day. We share emails every morning, sharing information back and forth. Again, it's that community effort. We also get it from the 911 center. We can look at the CAD reports, the computer-aided dispatch reports, and various ways we get information. The volunteer organizations active in disaster, the state. A lot of people get that information, and we try to put it out to the agencies who are most responsible. You won't hear us say, "We'll call so-and-so." We'll take that information and refer it to the Red Cross, and you'll do the same for us. Hey, heads up, this person needs this. But that constant communication and paying attention to what's going on.
So you mentioned some of the ways that you get information. How can an impacted individual who may be watching, this show, whether it's now or during another disaster, how can they best report an impact that they're experiencing?
One of the ways they can impact an experience, for example, if they have a flood damage or tornado damage or any kind of damage, they can call our number. At the county, the planning office answers that phone, and they can help fill out the survey forms if we're trying to get a federal disaster declaration. One is 304-357-0570. Then call our office, 304-357-0966. That's to get the report damage, or we'll get a disaster declaration or some other information. If we're wanting preparedness information, there's lots of information on social media and on the internet.
So, I wonder, Survey 123 is something that is often utilized after a disaster. How do people access that and share the impacts that they've experienced? Who does that?
Well, Survey 123 is a state tool. The state of West Virginia Emergency Management Division uses that to help collect data. They can look at saying that, well, we got 300 homes affected, we got 400 homes affected. And this is a statewide survey. And it helps them to formulate if there's a need to contact FEMA, and we'll go out and do damage assessments based on that information. You can get that form by calling those numbers I just gave, 357-0570 or 357-0966, or call the Red Cross office. Or a lot of other different people will have that information. We can send it to you, bring it to you, or if you can call our numbers, they'll help you over the phone to fill it out.
Fantastic. Thank you for that information. And, something that happens often when there's severe weather, power goes out. And there have been extended power outages due to the heavy winds that accompanied the April 2nd storms. What are some things that people should remember when the power goes off?
Well, one of the problems we have when the power goes off, like you said, is power going, no power. You can't do anything. And a lot of people will use portable generators. And we've had issues in the past where somebody's pulled a portable generator out. And in one case, a permanently installed one, where the exhaust was too close to an open door. We had one close to an open vent in a home. So if you want to use a portable generator, take it outside, away from an open door or window, away from your house. If you're going to be using one, you still need a carbon monoxide alarm, just in case. And we've actually had a double fatality fire several years ago where a generator was being used and the extension cord being used to set the fire. So make sure you keep it away from your house and use heavy enough cords, and don't put anything on top of them like a rug or a blanket or anything. Leave them exposed to help dissipate the heat, and don't overload them.
Thank you. Those generators are such a popular device when the power goes out, and we just have to be reminded of some of the safety steps that really need to be taken into consideration.
That's right. If they're operated properly, they're safe. Another alternative is I have a permanent home generator built in. I don't do anything. It automatically kicks on, makes life easy at my house. The power's out, my wife still has electrical power.
That is quite a convenience indeed. So with that, thank you for the reminder of some of those safety tips and how we can prepare when disaster may strike. Thank you all for joining Building Strong Communities. We'll be right back.
Turn your compassion into action when you volunteer with the American Red Cross. Communities across the country count on the Red Cross every day, from helping people affected by disasters like home fires and floods to supporting the collection of life-saving blood. You can make a difference. 90% of our workforce are volunteers who are inspired to give back. Discover the volunteer role that's right for you. Join us and help turn tragedy into hope. We can't do it without you. Visit redcross.org/volunteer.
Welcome back to Building Strong Communities. We're now going to chat with CW about how you can be ready when the next emergency occurs. There are 3 steps you can take to keep your family safe. CW, can you explain how families can stay safe with these 3 steps?
First of all, have a kit. Have your supplies. Have things you need right now. Have a list to take with you in your kit. If you have to leave, your medications, or if you're stuck at your house for a while, have your medications. Have a flashlight. Have some basic first aid supplies. It's nice to have food, that's going to last you for a while. Don't buy the food that you won't eat. That's just emergency ration food. Buy something you'll enjoy. Make it where, oh, gee, I get to use this now. And just recycle it every now and then. But there's a lot of information out there on how to make a kit. Number 1 is have a flashlight. That way you're not in the dark, and have a radio where you can get information.
How about batteries?
Yeah, change them out every now and then. Battery 5 or 6 years old is probably not going to work. So change the batteries out every so often.
Should you have more than 1 emergency kit?
Yes, what if you're traveling? The prepper in my family is my wife. She has a kit in the car. We travel somewhere. We could be stuck on the side of the interstate for a while. We have food. We just took our grandchildren on a trip, and there was food in the car. If we got stuck in a traffic jam, we were prepared. There was water, food, things of that nature, even something to entertain the children if we're stuck somewhere. But if you're traveling, have it in your car. If you have a camp, have it there, and have one at home. And tell everybody where it's at. That way they can use it if you're not there.
What do you think about important papers? Should that be in a kit?
Exactly. What happens if your house is destroyed, heaven forbid, a tornado comes through and your house is destroyed, or flood water gets it? You'll need that paperwork to go to FEMA when the time comes and prove ownership. Any information like that, anything terrible befalls you, you'll need that documentation, even your bank records.
So it's also important for people to have a plan when disaster strikes. What are some of the key components you would suggest for an emergency plan?
First of all, the most important part of the plan is making the plan. As Eisenhower said, the plan was nothing, planning was everything. It's all that work you go into making the plan. Reunification sites. What happens if you're separated, you're at work and your kids are home or whatever? How are you going to reunify with them? Where are you going to go? Who are you going to call? How are you going to escape? For example, and what happens if I have a continually flooded road during an event? How am I going to get out? What's my other way out of here? But make that plan and discuss it with your family. Everybody knows about it.
Oftentimes, people may get word and have to travel quickly. What do you say about having, your vehicle ready?
Yeah, I know, for example, I'm just talking in my line of work, but it's good for everybody. National Weather Service tells us this morning we have a tornado possibility where we have flooding possibility. Go fill my tank up. We were in Florida once, and a hurricane was coming in, and it was time to move, and the gas stations got really busy. If I knew and I knew the hurricane was coming, so we were prepared in advance to move out. In fact, we moved out before the evacuation order was given. Have a tank of gas. Tank of gas gets you a long ways. Or if a gas stations go down, like in the Derecho, it was hard to get gas for a while here. It's hard to get gasoline for several days until the service stations started getting the power back up. So have that ready. Have gas for your generator.
So staying informed is clearly very important for emergency, preparedness and response. How can, families have the time to get ready for disasters to occur?
Well, first we need to stay informed of public information. There's going to be a lot of different information going out there on public radio, commercial radio stations. Have a radio to pick it up. During one of the events, I believe it may, again, back to the ratio, some of the TV radio stations were allowed to go up their power a little bit because they're emergency broadcast radio. So radio stations get their stuff back up pretty quick. The cell phone companies get their stuff back up pretty quick. So have a way to charge your phone. If your power's out, have a way to charge your phone. I worked Hurricane Katrina, and one of the busiest outfits down there was the cell phone outfits. And cell phones were pretty new then. It wasn't established as it is now. That's almost 20 years ago. So they do a good job, but have a way to communicate with your family. And what about if you can't communicate electronically like the cell phone? Have another means. I really advocate weather radio also, and especially if you get one that's alternate that's battery operated. Weather radios are a really good way of getting information for disasters about flooding, weather emergencies. It can even help with maybe a shelter-in-place emergency.
You mentioned some of the ways people can get this information. Kanawha County has been tremendous about making sure that they use emergency alerts, mobile apps, local media, and even the outdoor warning signs or sirens. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and the tornadoes of the 2nd is a good example of the things we did. The National Weather Service activated their wireless emergency alert, which goes to your cell phones, unless you've turned it off. And they can geocode those pretty well into the areas affected. This time it was the whole county pretty much. But they can hit your cell phones, and even if you have the sound turned off, it will still make a sound with that wireless emergency alert. It'll interrupt your phone call to give you that wireless emergency alert. But they don't use it, they use it very wisely. It's only used for those extreme emergencies that you need to be notified on. It's not going to tell you that the road's closed up the road. It's going to tell you that there's a tornado in the area or there's some other serious emergency. There is an emergency alert system we used to call the emergency broadcast system. It comes across your cable, it comes across broadcast TV and radio. We have the reverse 911 at Metro, and a lot of apps are out there also. But one of the things we used a lot during this last event was the outdoor warning sirens. I emphasize the outdoor part of it. It's for people who are outside and may not have the TV on or have access to a lot of other information. But the commission had us activate it multiple times. That way, during the length of the tornado, and people paid attention to that. I heard lots and lots of people talking about when we heard the siren keep blowing, that we knew that something really serious was wrong, and we took action. And I think we saved lives with that continual action and all the other warnings that was being broadcast.
I certainly heard it, and it does bring your attention to the seriousness of the situation. And there are times that I hear that siren maybe when it is not a disaster, but it is, testing. When does that happen?
We test on the 4th Wednesday of the month, and a lot of people think it's the last Wednesday, but it's the 4th because it's programmed into the computers at the 911 center to test the sirens. You cannot you can't put that in the computer the last Wednesday. It's put in. It's the 4th Wednesday, so it's the 4th Wednesday at noon. We test the alert sirens. They're a maintenance nightmare at times. There are like 50-some sirens. They're outside and they're battery operated. We charge the batteries. They eat batteries, it seems like. So we have to test them all the time to make sure they're okay. But if we have a Wednesday that, say, a tornadic activity may be coming, we will not test them. If there's some activity going on that people might confuse that with an alarm, we hold off the test. But usually the 4th Wednesday of the month.
Thank you for sharing that, and knowing that if there is a major event coming, that will not be a time when you're testing. So if you hear that alarm, it is to warn you to take shelter or to take the action that is necessary for that disaster.
I like to emphasize when you hear the siren, it's not a tornado siren, it's not a shelter-in-place siren, it's a warning siren. And we want people to go inside and turn on their TV or radio or pay attention to their apps or other ways or ways they get their news or information, pay attention to that. The siren, most of them will not tell you exactly what to do at first. During the tornadic activity, the sirens were activated, and then once they were activated several times, we use the voice sirens. We have a lot of the voice sirens to tell people to shelter in place. We don't use them simultaneously. It's all of them blowing the siren sound at first. Then we go back to the voice sirens and say shelter in place.
So having that access to information in your kit is so important. So like you said, a charger for your phone in that kit, a battery charger, a radio, batteries to make sure that radio can work. Because when those sirens go off, you need people looking for the information as to what's going on and how to react.
You'll be a popular person because you'll be the person in the know when you're seeking shelter.
Absolutely.
You'll be the leader, so to speak, because you're prepared.
Absolutely. So speaking of preparing, can you talk to the viewers about how taking special considerations into account may be necessary for those who are elderly or people with disabilities, young children, and even our beloved pets?
First, let's talk about the disabilities. We have a large proportion of our population that has some kind of mobility issue or some kind of disability. We have to make special precautions for them. A lot of folks are by themselves, and it's a frequent 911 call to come help get somebody up that's fell or whatever because there's nobody at home. We need to make sure we pay attention to these folks, that we know about them. Somebody needs to check on them. If you have family or friends or somebody close by, go check on them, and if there's an emergency, we may have to shelter in place. It's very hard to get some folks out. They're being cared for at home and maybe even bedfast. So we need to have a plan in place for what you're going to do with those folks and understand if it's bad enough that you have to evacuate, so do a lot of other people. So you need to have a plan in place. Where are you going to shelter in place, or are you going to try to move? I use a nursing home, for example. Nursing homes and hospitals are not made to evacuate, they're made to defend in place. So, but you have a plan for what you're going to do with those folks. But go check on them when you can.
What about preparing for an emergency when you have children to take into account?
Have somebody to entertain them and have somebody to collect them. Children usually outside playing somewhere, hopefully. They're outside. Let them know that when something happens, come home. Come home. But have an alternate place for them to go also. When I was a kid, there was a dozen homes I could go to if there was an emergency, and I could call home and say, I'm here. But have a place for the kids to go, but especially the smaller children. But they should know what to do if they hear the siren blow. It's not the fourth Wednesday of the month, but they need to go home, and that way parents can get a hold of them. I would not want my children out somewhere I didn't know where they were, as much as I would trust them. I look at my grandchildren now, much as I trust them, I still would want them close to me when something happens, and most people are that way. They're concerned about their children.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, items in the kit that would also keep them entertained, right? And keep them calm, because doing something that feels normal, could be good for the kids in an emergency situation.
That's why you need the battery charger for your phones, because most of them want to play on their phones. Have some kind of entertainment. And I use, again, back to my grandchildren, and we'll play a game sometimes at the house. But keep them entertained. Have something for them to eat, something for them to do. All of us will get restless if we don't have anything to do. We want to do something with our time. And if you're in an emergency in a shelter in a place you're not used to being in, you're going to get a little nervous. So keep it as normal as you can with light, some battery operated light, and have entertainment for them, at least for where you can stand for them a day or so.
Great advice. And what about those who have pets?
Pets, most people will not give up their pets. They will not leave their pets at home. If we have a shelter, the pet be introduced into the shelter has to be trained at a function. It has to be a service animal, because if I had a cat and you had a dog, they might not necessarily get along in the shelter. So have a place for them to go. I go back again to Hurricane Katrina when a lot of pets were abandoned. We were working the areas in Mississippi picking up hazardous materials, and there was a lot of pets that were hungry, and they had agencies from out of state coming in trying to pick these animals up to care for them. We were even feeding a few of the dogs ourselves. But have a plan for your pets, where they can go, where they can stay. And in most cases in West Virginia, people do not go to shelters. It's nice if you have pets, if you have someplace else you can go that will take the pets, like family or friends. You know, Grandma might get mad about the dog, but she'll live with it if you're there and safe with her. So, but have a plan for them.
So you have helped us remember the 3 major steps, and that is get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. In addition to those 3 things, do you have anything else to share or highlight?
Well, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but, and I look past experience, working at a hospital setting for a short period of time. Hospitals have to be prepared for 96 hours. They have to have a plan for 96 hours. We ask the public to have a plan for 72 hours. Have food and water available. And for example, water is the toughest commodity to store because you need so much of it. It's easier to store some rations that I can eat for 2 or 3 days. But you think how much water you use at your house every day, and not all of it is drinking. Bathing, using the toilet, have water available. And the 3 gallons a day per person is very small if you're going to use it for bathing or for flushing. So for example, in my home, I have 50 gallons of water stored in a rain barrel that I can use for utility work, like using the toilet or whatever. Then have enough water. I have like 20 gallons of water my wife and I could use to take a bath or to clean up, because nobody wants to go to bed at night feeling dirty. So have enough water to do that. We can heat it up when the water's out and be reasonably comfortable. Then we have drinking water. So that's your hardest commodity. It's the hardest commodity for anybody to have enough of that.
Well, thank you for reminding us, of the things that we might not think about and being prepared for disaster, and for sharing your expertise on this. While talking about preparedness, the most common disaster that is faced across the country and here in our area is home fires. They happen every day, and the most effective way to make sure that you can be safe from home fire is to make sure that you have working smoke alarms. If you need to contact us for working smoke alarms, you can call your local Red Cross office or your fire department, as well as your emergency managers. So CW, thank you for joining us today and for all you do to make sure our communities are prepared for disaster and helping them recover when the worst does happen. Download the free Red Cross Emergency app to get life-saving preparedness information in the palm of your hand, now in English and Spanish. The app gives you real-time weather alerts, shows where to locate open shelters, and provides expert advice on all types of emergencies and disasters. Search American Red Cross in your app store or go to redcross.org/apps. Additionally, for more information on how to assemble a pet first aid kit and take care of your pet during emergencies, download the free Red Cross Pet First Aid app. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Building Strong Communities. Contact your local Red Cross or the number on the screen. Visit our website or follow us on social media to learn more about the services the Red Cross provides in your community. Thank you so much for watching and for building strong communities.